and welcome to Toss Up 1994, where we feature top area high school students in exciting academic competition. I'm Karen Elliott, your host and moderator for today's game. Let's meet our teams. First, we have from Cleveland, Sunil Mendarata. Sunil, welcome. Who'd you bring with you today?
I brought Brad Bonds and Ben Morrison.
Welcome to you all. And on the opposing side, we have Baylor and team captain Andrew Winternitz. Andrew, welcome again.
Thank you.
Who'd you bring with you?
I brought with me today on my left, Marisa Askew, and on my right, Oja Sajani.
Welcome to all of you. As our teams get ready for today's game, let me remind everyone of the rules. The competition is divided into 2 toss-up rounds that are each followed by a bonus round. Toss-up questions are worth between 5 and 20 points and are answered by the team member that buzzes in first. Scores are tallied at the end of each toss-up round, and the team with the higher score gets its choice of categories in the bonus round, which are worth 10 points each. Any team buzzing in before the question is completed will lose 5 points if the answer given is wrong. And before we get started, I want to thank our panel of judges who are with us today. The judges will have the final decisions on any questions or scores. Good luck to our teams, and now let's begin our first toss-up round. Here we go for 10 points. A curmudgeon is a gruff, blunt person. How do you spell curmudgeon?
Johnny Baylor.
C-U-R-M-U-D-G-E-O-N.
Correct. For 15 points, identify the chess move leading to the exchange for any piece.
Morrison, Cleveland.
Castleton.
Incorrect. May I finish the question? For any piece of the player's choice when a pawn reaches the 8th rank.
Winternitz, Baylor.
Exchange.
We're looking for pawn promotion or queening there. For 5 points, what branch of science is symbolized by the mortar and pestle?
Winternitz, Baylor.
Pharmacy.
Correct. For 20 points, who put Edward V in the Tower of London and proclaimed himself king?
Winternitz, Baylor.
James II.
Incorrect. Cleveland?
Mendarata, Cleveland.
Richard III.
That'd be correct. For 15 points, in the French alphabet, the mark placed under the letter C to give it the sound of S is called what?
Time.
Looking for a cedilla there. 20 points. This distinctively British adverb created a sensation when it was first used on the stage in George Bernard Shaw's Pygmalion, when Liza Doolittle delivered the famous line. What is the word?
To Johnny Baylor.
Bloody.
Correct. For 20 points, based on an Italian film, Passion is the most recent musical effort by what Broadway composer?
Winternitz, Baylor.
Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Incorrect.
Time.
Stephen Sondheim. For 20 points, a circular tabletop measures 7 feet in diameter. Calculate the area of the tabletop, expressing your answer in terms of pi.
To Johnny Baylor.
12.125 pi square feet.
Judges? Incorrect.
Mendarata, Cleveland.
12.25 pi square feet.
Incorrect. We're looking for 12.25 pi on that. For 15 points, one of the most popular hobbies in the U.S. today is collecting antiques. How old must an object generally be to be considered?
Winternitz, Baylor.
25 years.
Incorrect. Considered an
Mendarata,
antique. I'll
Cleveland.
finish that question for you.
100 years.
Correct. For 5 points, determine the 4th term in the sequence 21, 42, 84.
To Johnny Baylor.
168.
Correct. 20 points. What was declared by Henry VIII in the Act of Supremacy?
To Johnny Baylor.
His own control of the Church of England.
Correct. The King of England was head of the church. For 10 points, under the Reagan administration, it was the 2nd largest recipient of U.S. food aid. Under the Bush administration, it was the target of a U.S. food embargo. Name the Middle East nation.
Winternitz, Baylor.
Iraq.
Correct. For 10 points, what legendary football star for the University of Illinois was known as the Galloping Ghost?
Winternitz, Baylor.
Red Grange.
Correct. For 10 points, a large tax is placed on some foreign imports in order to encourage manufacturers of the same articles in this country. What is such an import tax called?
To Johnny, Baylor.
A tariff.
More specific, please.
An import tariff.
Incorrect. Cleveland?
Mendorada, Cleveland.
Protective tariff?
Correct. For 5 points, which of the following would you be unwise to possess as a hedge against rampant inflation in the United States? Gold, land, art objects, dollars, or gems?
Askew, Baylor.
Dollars. Correct. For 5 points, what do the following men have in common? Leonard Calvert, John Endicott, James Oglethorpe, and Roger Williams.
Mendorada, Cleveland.
They were founders of colonies which later became states.
Correct. For 15 points, name the 2 Caribbean countries which share the island of Hispaniola.
Askew, Baylor.
Haiti and the Dominican Republic.
Correct. For 10 points, a cobbler mends shoes. What does a tinker mend?
Askew, Baylor.
Pots and pans.
Correct. Name these objects made of wood. For 5 points, support for an artist's canvas.
Askew, Baylor.
An easel.
Correct. For 10 points, a pile 8 feet by 4 feet.
To Johnny, Baylor.
A cord.
Correct. For 15 points, the fingers of a wooden fork.
Askew, Baylor.
The Times.
Correct. For 20 points, a sailing vessel between a corvette and a destroyer in size.
Winternitz, Baylor.
A frigate.
Correct. For 10 points, scientists at the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine conclude that drinking alcohol, even a little, tends to suppress formation of red blood cells, which are essential for carrying what life-giving element to all tissues?
To Johnny, Baylor.
Oxygen.
Correct. Tissues of the body. For 20 points, which chemical element has the highest specific gravity?
To Johnny, Baylor.
Cesium.
Incorrect. Cleveland?
Mendorada, Cleveland.
Hydrogen?
What we're looking for there is osmium. For 20 points, the King Ranch in Texas developed the first distinctively American breed of beef cattle. The breed is 5/8 Shorthorn for beef qualities and 3/8 Brahman for hardiness. Name this breed.
Morrison, Cleveland.
Jersey.
Incorrect.
Winternitz, Baylor.
Longhorn.
We're looking for Santra Gertrudis there. Santra Gertrudis. For 20 points, what Atlanta college did Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. attend?
To Johnny, Baylor.
Morehouse.
Correct. For 15 points, fish is enjoyed in every part of the world. In the United States, which fish is usually meant when referred to as sole?
Vines, Cleveland.
Flounder.
Correct. And that's the end of round 1. In just a moment, we'll take a look at the scores. But first, here are the bonus categories: dates and notorious. Remember that the team with the higher score will go first in the bonus round. At this point, we have Cleveland coming in with 80 points and Baylor at 185. So Baylor, between the 2 categories of dates and notorious, you may choose first.
We're going to have dates.
Dates it will be then. And remember that you will have 60 seconds to answer these 10 questions. You all may confer, but only the captain may give the answer. Each school, as I say, will have 60 seconds to answer those questions. Now, you may pass on any questions. If time allows, we will go back to them. All right. Are you all ready? Here we go with dates. I'll name the years. You name the major territorial addition to the United States. 1803.
Louisiana Purchase.
Correct. 1819.
Texas.
Incorrect. 1845.
That'd be Texas.
Correct. 1846.
Gadsden Purchase.
Incorrect. 1848.
Oklahoma.
Incorrect. 1853.
Arizona.
Incorrect. 1867.
California.
Incorrect. 1898.
Hawaii.
Correct. 1903.
North Dakota.
Incorrect. 1917.
Texas.
Incorrect on that one. 1917, we're looking at Virgin Islands. We didn't pass on any questions, so we'll go back. 1819 was Florida. I'll give you those correct answers. 1846, Oregon right there. 1848, Mexican Cession. 1853, Gadsden Purchase right there. 1867, Alaska or Midway Island. And 1903, the Panama Canal Zone. Okay? All right. All right, now turning our attention over to Cleveland. Remember that you have the category of notorious. And we will give you 60 seconds to answer those questions. You will have, you may pass on any of the questions you would like, and if time permits, we will go back. All right, here we are for notorious. What Roman emperor had his own mother executed, murdered his wife, killed the girl who
Nero.
Correct. What Sioux chief's forces defeated General Custer and Company?
Sitting Bull.
Correct. What miserly character hated the Christmas spirit until Christmas ghosts reformed
Ebenezer
him?
Scrooge.
Correct. Name this king of the Huns so cruel and warped.
Attila.
Correct. Name the villain whose insinuations drove Othello to murder Desdemona.
Pass.
For helping General Andrew Jackson, this pirate was pardoned by President Madison, but soon returned to piracy.
Pass.
What did the Stephen Vincent Benet short story Against Whom Did Daniel Webster Contend for the Unfortunate Jabez Stone?
Pass.
A book based on the theory that maintenance of power justifies deceit and treachery in government is The Prince. What Italian statesman wrote it?
Machiavelli.
Correct. This former boxer later became a cruel dictator in Uganda.
Pass.
In Spanish, governor of the Netherlands in the 16th century has executed thousands to maintain order. Name this duke who later conquered Portugal.
Philip II.
Duke of Alva there we're looking for. Former boxer, later became a cruel dictator, Idi Amin. Iago we're looking for as the villain whose insinuations drove Othello to murder Desdemona. For helping General Andrew Jackson, this pirate was pardoned by President Madison, but soon returned to piracy, Jean Lafitte. And in Stephen Vincent Benet's short story, Against Whom Did Daniel Webster Contend for the Unfortunate Jabez Stone? The Devil and Daniel Webster. All right, and before we check the score, let me tell you what you all are playing for. Within the toss-up tournament, there are a total of 10 schools competing against each other to win academic recognition, a special plaque, and scholarship money. Bryan College, an official sponsor of Toss-Up 94, is offering 4 $1,000 scholarships to the winning toss-up school. As we keep that in mind, let's check our scores. And here they are. Right now, Baylor coming in at 215 and Cleveland 130. So as we head into our second round of toss-up, we ready, teams? All right. For 5 points, here we go. It ceased publication with the breakup of the former Soviet Union. Name this newspaper.
Johnny Baylor.
Pravda.
Correct. For 5 points, this U.S. city lost nearly 15% of its net population between 1980 and 1990, dropping from 1.2 million to just under.
Winternitz Baylor.
New York City.
Incorrect. Let me finish the question. To drop to just under 1 million. Name this city which, because of geographical peculiarity, lies just north of Windsor, Ontario.
Mendorada, Cleveland.
Detroit, Michigan.
Correct. For 5 points, NASA confirmed that after his death in 1991, the ashes of the creator of Star Trek were flown into space aboard the shuttle and returned to Earth. Can you name him?
Winternitz Baylor.
Gene Roddenberry.
Correct. For 10 points, as a result of the First World War, 3 new European countries of more than 10 million citizens were formed. Name any one of them.
Winternitz Baylor.
Poland.
Correct. Also looking for Czechoslovakia or Yugoslavia there. For 5 points, what is the current name of the cabinet department that was once called the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, before education gained solo status?
Mendorada, Cleveland.
Department of Health and Human Services.
Correct. For 5 points, the prairie schooner or covered wagon was one of the most important vehicles of the pioneers going west. It was also called what?
Morrison, Cleveland.
Ticonderoga.
Incorrect.
Askew, Baylor.
Conestoga.
Correct. For 20 20 points. Which attorney, now active in the Clinton administration, twice listed among the nation's top 100 lawyers by the National Law Journal, was one of 82 Arkansas attorneys?
To Johnny Baylor.
Hillary Clinton.
Correct. She was listed as one of 82 Arkansas attorneys included in the list of the best lawyers of America at 93-94. For 10 points, many species of vultures inhabit all the continents. What is the one common characteristic unique to all vultures?
Vines, Cleveland.
Scavengers.
Correct. All right, we'll take that. They eat only carrion. Here's a math question for you. For 15 points, an altimeter is an instrument used to measure altitude. It is composed of a barometer in which the action of atmospheric pressure in bending a metallic surface is made to move a pointer. What is this kind of barometer called, which is employed in the altimeter?
Winternitz, Baylor.
Atmospheric.
Incorrect. Cleveland?
Time.
Aneroid barometer we're looking for there. So math question for you. For 15 points, factor 36a squared minus 49b squared.
To Johnny Baylor.
That would be 6a squared plus 7b squared. 6a plus 7b times 6a minus 7b.
That is correct. Thank you. For 5 points, in a surprising ruling, the High Court in which South American country recently legalized the possession of small amounts of cocaine, marijuana, hashish, and other hallucinogens?
Winternitz, Baylor.
Columbia.
Correct. For 20 points, in South Africa's recent election, the African National Congress easily won the majority of vote. What party finished second?
Winternitz, Baylor.
The South African Democratic Party.
Incorrect. Cleveland?
Time.
Looking for the National Party there. For 15 points, the Maelstrom is a dangerous whirlpool off the coast of what country?
Winternitz, Baylor.
Italy.
Incorrect.
Menderata, Cleveland.
Greece.
Looking for Norway there. For 10 points, Helen Keller and Annie Sullivan are immortalized in what memorable film?
Menderata, Cleveland.
Miracle Worker.
Correct. For 10 points, the Gulf of Tonkin is a branch of a larger sea off the coast of Southeast Asia. Name this greater body of water.
Vines, Cleveland.
Yellow Sea.
Incorrect.
South China Sea.
Correct. For 5 points, how do you spell moccasin?
To Johnny Baylor.
Moccasin.
Correct. For 20 points, two Cassini ovals joined together give rise to an algebraic curve which has a specific name. One of these curves might be representative by the equation y squared plus, the equation x squared plus y squared times 2 minus 2a squared times x squared minus y squared equal 0. Name this curve.
To Johnny Baylor.
Hyperbola.
Incorrect.
Menderata, Cleveland.
Parabola.
Lemniscate we're looking for there. For 5 points, how do you spell eligibility?
Menderata, Cleveland.
Eligibility.
Correct. For 15 points, before President Clinton in April asked the UN to impose more comprehensive sanctions on Haiti, not only 2 items were affected by the embargo. Name either one of them.
Menderata, Cleveland.
Baseballs.
Incorrect.
Winternitz, Baylor.
Gasoline. Petroleum.
Looking to the judges for that one. Oil and arms on that one. For 5 points, what is a bibliophile?
Winternitz, Baylor.
A lover of books.
Correct. For 20 points, coming from a Greek word meaning pilot, governor, it's a science concerned with common
Morrison, Cleveland.
Politics.
Incorrect. Let me finish the question, please. It's a science concerned with common factors of control and communications in organisms, automatic machines, and organizations. What is the science called?
Winternitz, Baylor.
Demographics.
Cybernetics we're looking for there. For 20 points, name the largest petrochemical port in the world.
Mendorada, Cleveland.
Anchorage.
Incorrect.
Winternitz, Baylor.
Valdez.
Looking for Houston. That one. For 5 points, how many men are there on a soccer team?
Vines, Cleveland.
11.
Correct. For 10 points, listen to Al Capp's definition of abstract art. A product of the untalented sold by the unprincipled to the bewildered. Tell me not whether you agree, but whether he might have been referring to the art of John Sloan, John Singleton Copley, Jackson Pollock, or Edward Hopper.
Askew, Baylor.
Jackson Pollock.
Correct. For 5 points, in the year 1860, the following help wanted ad appeared in the newspapers. Wanted, young, skinny, wiry fellows not over 18. Must be expert riders willing to risk death daily. Orphans preferred. Wages, $25 a week. What was the job?
Winternitz, Baylor.
Couriers for Pony Express.
Correct. And for 5 points, a baker's dozen of a baker's dozen.
To Johnny, Baylor.
169.
Correct. All right, and here's our last question for our second round of toss-up. For 10 points, in what city is the Taj Mahal located?
To Johnny, Baylor.
Agra.
Correct. All right. Now there's still some time for either score to change. We've already done round 2, so we'll be going up into the bonus rounds. And before we go to the scores, we would like to be sure and thank our coaches who are with us today, David Harris for Baylor, and also Bedford Smith, who is here for Cleveland. And remember, the categories for the bonus rounds, this time, second bonus round, are history and opera. These questions are worth 10 points each, and only the captain may give the answer. And taking a look at the scores right now, we have Cleveland coming in with 165, Baylor 325. And your categories are opera and history. Baylor, you may choose first since you're ahead.
We'll have history.
History it will be. You will have 60 seconds to answer these 10 questions. Anytime we don't have to answer those questions, you may pass. Anytime we have left, if those questions you pass on, we can go back to. An incorrect answer stays incorrect. All right, history, here we are. The Munich Pact, signed in 1938, ceded the southern land of Czechoslovakia to Germany. Ceded the southern land of Germany, Czechoslovakia to Germany. Name these representatives who signed this pact. The German representative.
Oh, Hitler.
Correct. Italian.
Mussolini.
Correct. English.
Chamberlain.
Correct. French.
De Gaulle.
Incorrect. Now name 4 famous names from English history. I'll name the king, you give me the ruling house. William II.
Orange.
Correct. Henry V.
Windsor.
Incorrect. George I.
Hanover.
Correct. Richard III.
York.
Correct. And finally, here are 2 Russian history questions. His original name was Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov.
Lenin.
Correct. She became Empress of Russia after her husband
Catherine the
Peter
Great.
III. Correct. Good job. And under the French, we were looking for Edward Ballier and Henry V Lancaster. Good job on that one, fellows. And ladies, we appreciate it. All right, turning our attention now to Cleveland. Your category is opera. You will have 60 seconds to answer these 10 questions. Remember, you may pass. If their time allows, we will come back to it. Okay? Identify the composers of the following operas. Rigoletto.
Pass.
The Mikado.
Respighi.
Incorrect. Faust.
Wagner.
Incorrect. Fidelio.
Beethoven.
Correct. Loa Grand.
Pass.
Carmen.
Pass.
The Barber of Seville.
Pass.
Porgy and Bess.
Gershwin.
Correct. The Marriage of Figaro.
Mozart.
Correct. Madame Butterfly.
Pass.
Composers, Rigoletto. You identify the composers. Rigoletto is your opera.
Pass.
Loa Grand.
Mussorgsky.
Incorrect. Carmen.
Pass.
Barber of Seville.
Pass.
Madame Butterfly. Okay, let's go back then to Rigoletto. We're looking for Verdi there. Carmen, Bizet, Barber of Seville, Rossini, Madame Butterfly, Puccini. And the answers that we had incorrect were the Mikado, that was Gilbert and Sullivan on that one. Faust, Gounod, and Lohengrin was Wagner. Teams, we appreciate your being with us today. Again, we appreciate the coaches because of their effort that they put into preparing these teams for competition. Coach for Cleveland, Benford Smith, we appreciate your being with us and the time that you take for preparing this team. And for David Harris, appreciate the time that you take in preparing Baylor for this competition. Two great teams. We appreciate you all being with us. And we want to thank also our judges who are helping us out today. They mean a lot to us, too, in answering these questions when we have questions about the answers. And thank you, too, for watching your favorite public television station, WTCI. I'm Karen Elliott, and we hope to see you next time with two new teams for another game of toss-up. And before we do, let's go ahead and take a look at those scores, those final scores we have for you today. That is Baylor, 405 points, and Cleveland, 195. Again, thank you, teams, thank you, coaches, and thank you, judges. Thank you for watching.
Next, it's the Tennessee gubernatorial debate, Phil Bredesen versus Don Sundquist.
Sponsors of the Goldman Environmental Prize, recognizing environmental heroes throughout the world.
For a VHS copy of this program, send $35 to WTCI Video Services, 4411 Amicola Highway, Chattanooga, Tennessee, 37406.
Funding for Toss-Up is made possible in part by Bryan College. Bryan College, broad-based liberal arts in a Christian perspective, preparing you for your next job and the rest of your life. Bryan College, Dayton, Tennessee. Christian education for today's world.
All aboard the Trans-Karoo Express and other trains chugging through a South Africa on the brink of change.
A few years ago, we non-whites were never allowed to come near this department or this section of the train.
Discover a landscape both beautiful and troubled. As journalist Rian Milan takes us from Cape Town to the Lost City, our next great railway journey.
Coming up tonight at 11 on Channel 45.
Funding for Toss-Up is made possible in part by Bryan College. Bryan College, broad-based liberal arts in a Christian perspective, preparing you for your next job and the rest of your life. Bryan College, Dayton, Tennessee. Christian education for today's world.
And welcome to Toss-Up 1994, where we feature top area high school students in exciting academic competition. I'm Karen Elliott, your host and moderator for today's game. Let's meet our teams. First, from Baylor. Welcome back to Captain Andrew Winternitz. Andrew, welcome back.
Thank you.
Who'd you bring with you as teammates today?
Well, on my left, I have Marisa Askew, and to my right, I have Otis Tajani.
I'm looking forward to a good match from you all. And the opposing side, Ooltewah, team captain Dale Ernest. Dale, welcome back.
Thank you, glad to be here.
And your teammates, please.
Matt Johnson on my left and Adam Sane on my right.
Welcome to you all. As our teams get ready for today's game, let me remind everyone of the rules. The competition is divided into 2 toss-up rounds that are each followed by a bonus round. Toss-up questions are worth between 5 and 20 points and are answered by the team member that buzzes in first. Scores are tallied at the end of each toss-up round, and the team with the higher score gets its choice of categories in the bonus round, which are worth 10 points each. Any team buzzing in before the question is completed will lose 5 points if the answer given is wrong. And before we get started, I want to thank our panel of judges who are with us today. The judges will have the final decisions on any questions or scores. Good luck to our teams. Now, are we ready to begin toss-up? Here we go. For 10 points, pizza is a popular food. What is a piazza?
Ernest, Ooltewah.
It's a square in a town.
Judges, correct. For 5 points, the Israeli Supreme Court unanimously acquitted retired Ohio auto worker John Demjanjuk of charges that he was the Nazi death camp guard with what nickname?
Sane, Ooltewah.
Ivan the Terrible.
Correct. Name the person identified with these quotations. For 5 points. Win friends and influence people.
Ernest, Ooltewah.
Andrew Carnegie.
Incorrect.
Tajani, Baylor.
Dale Carnegie.
Correct. For 15 points, I believe it is peace for our time.
Sane, Ooltewah.
Neville Chamberlain.
Correct. For 10 points, the nathering nabobs of negativism.
Tajani, Baylor.
Spiro Agnew.
Correct. For 10 points, name the philosopher who dies in Plato's Phaedo.
Winternitz, Baylor.
Aristotle.
Incorrect.
Ernest, Ooltewah.
Socrates.
Correct. For 20 points, what is the difference in value between all the imports and all the exports of a country?
Winternitz, Baylor.
The balance of trade.
Correct. For 5 points, which one of these politicians did not serve as vice president to Franklin Roosevelt? John Nance Gardner, Henry Wallace, Wendell Willkie, or Harry S. Truman?
Sane, Ooltewah.
Wendell Willkie.
Correct. For 15 points, bile is produced in both the liver and the gallbladder and is useful in the digestion of what?
Ernest, Ooltewah.
Lipids. Or fats.
Correct. All right. The digestion of what food substances? For 20 points, located in northern Bavaria, this city is noted for the Wagnerian...
Sane, Ooltewah.
Beirut.
Correct. Music festivals held there. Can you name it? Indeed. For 5 points, give the word for a ghost or any object of dread that is the surname of the Pennsylvania Republican senator who was severely...
Winternitz, Baylor.
Specter.
Correct. Severely criticized for his relentless cross-examination of Anita Hill during the Clarence Thomas hearings. For 20 points, give me the name of the U.S. Secretary of Commerce.
Tajani, Baylor.
Ron Brown.
Correct. For 5 points, Texas has a population of approximately 17 million people. 68 million guns are owned by Texans. That's an average of how many guns per person?
Ernest, Ooltewah.
4 guns per person.
Correct. For 5 points, a mandrake is a common woodland plant. What is a mandrill?
Winternitz, Baylor.
It's a musical instrument.
Judges? Incorrect. Ooltewah?
Time.
A large, ferocious baboon of West Africa. For 10 points, cirrhosis is an ailment associated with the inflammation of the liver. How do you spell cirrhosis?
Tajani, Baylor.
C-I-R-R-H-O-S-I-S.
Correct. For 15 points, tell me the number of the following amendment to the Constitution. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted.
Ernest Ottawa.
The 6th.
Incorrect.
Winternitz Baylor.
The 7th.
Looking for the 8th there. For 5 points, about 2/3 of these on Borneo have been stripped and cleared away, most in the last century.
Winternitz Baylor.
Rainforest.
Correct. What are we talking about? For 5 points, in a case involving the Afro-Cuban religion called Santeria, a Supreme Court ruled that religious groups have a constitutional right to do what in worship services? The SPCA would disagree.
Winternitz Baylor.
Sacrifice animals.
Correct. For 5 points, name the first U.S. president to be born after World War II.
Ernest Ottawa.
Bill Clinton.
Correct. For 5 points, what renowned pirate aided Andrew Jackson against the British?
Seine Ottawa.
Jean Lafitte.
Correct, in the War of 1812. For 10 points, with what ancient kingdom would you associate the rulers? Cyrus, Darius?
Seine Ottawa.
Persia.
Correct. For 15 points, who served as vice president during Franklin Delano Roosevelt's first and second terms?
Winternitz Baylor.
Harry Truman.
Incorrect.
Ernest Ottawa.
Wallace.
Looking for John Nance Gardner there. For 10 points, 8 inmates and 1 guard died in a prison riot in which state in April 1993?
Johnny Baylor.
New York.
Incorrect.
Seine Ottawa.
Pennsylvania.
Ohio. For 5 points, in 1981, the Dallas Morning News conducted its annual spelling bee involving elementary and junior high school students. The contest was decided when one of the youngsters failed to spell bumptious. Can you?
Johnny Baylor.
B-U-M-P-T-I-O-U-S.
Correct. Can you spell bumptious? Indeed. For 15 points, now tell me what bumptious means.
Ernest Ottawa.
It means overly active, hyper, or hyper.
Judges? No, that's incorrect. Baylor, would you like to try?
Johnny Baylor.
Clumsy.
Looking for offensively self-assertive as a bumptious young upstart. For 10 points, when equal and opposite forces are exerted on a body along different lines of action, is the body said to be under tension, compression, shear, or elasticity?
Askew Baylor.
Compression.
Incorrect.
Ernest Ottawa.
Shear.
Correct. For 10 points, how many electrons are there in an atom of beryllium, atomic number 4, mass number 9?
Ernest Ottawa.
4.
Correct. For 5 points, what ethnic group protested the 1991 World Series between the Twins?
Johnny Baylor.
Indians.
Correct. Native Americans, all right. Well, that's the end of round 1, and in just a moment, we'll take a look at the scores. But first, here are the bonus categories, cities and potluck. Remember that the team with the higher score will go first in the bonus round. At this point, Baylor's coming in with 90 points, Ottawa 125 points. Ottawa, you will go first in the bonus round. Which category do you choose between potluck and cities?
Potluck, please.
Potluck it will be. Remember that during the bonus rounds, team members may confer, but only the captain can give answers. Each school will have 60 seconds to answer the 10 questions. And captains, you may pass on any questions, and we'll come back to them if time permits. Are you ready now for potluck?
Yes.
Here we go. What was the original name of Veterans Day?
Armistice Day.
Correct. What gas is found in carbonated beverages?
Carbon dioxide.
Correct. What African nation is closest to Europe?
Morocco.
Correct. What type of burn destroys skin tissues?
Cauterization.
Incorrect. What Egyptian king founded the first dynasty uniting Upper and Lower Egypt?
Menaeus.
Correct. Define the adjective diminutive.
Timid or small.
Correct. At what Utah location were the Union Pacific and the Central Pacific Railroads linked in 1869?
Promontory Point.
Correct. Killed in Chicago by G-men in 1934, this bank robber was America's first...
John Dillinger.
Correct. Members of Congress may send unstamped letters and literature through the mail. What is this practice called?
Pass.
Beat, beat, drums blow, bugles blow. What American poet wrote this poem about the Civil War?
Stephen Green.
Time on that, I'm sorry, you all. Walt Whitman, we're looking for there. Franking privilege is the privilege that members of Congress have of sending unstamped letters through the mail. And the type of burn that destroys skin tissues, 3rd degree, we were looking for there. And there was our potluck category now from Ooltewah. We'll go ahead and turn our attention to Baylor, and we will look at cities. You all will have 60 seconds to answer these questions. You may pass, and we'll come back to them as time allows. A wrong answer, of course, is indeed wrong. We'll stay wrong. All right, these questions for cities. First, I'll name 3 cities known for their prisons. You name the state. Leavenworth.
Kansas.
Correct. San Quentin.
California.
Correct. Attica.
New York.
Correct. Now, 4 questions about cities of the American Revolution. Where did the first shots of the American Revolutionary War take place?
Concord.
Incorrect. Where was the Declaration of Independence signed?
Philadelphia.
Correct. George Washington crossed the Delaware River to attack British
Trenton.
forces. Excuse me?
Trenton.
Correct. Where was the first capital of the United States?
New York City.
Correct. There have been Crosstown World Series before. The following teams. Name these cities. Yankees and Giants.
New York.
Correct. White Sox and Cubs.
Chicago.
Correct. Browns and Cardinals.
St. Louis.
Correct. And that answers all your questions. There was nothing that was passed. First revolutionary shots of the American Revolutionary War, the first shots, were at Lexington. Good job, both teams, on the bonus rounds. And we'll check the score here. But first, let me tell you what we're playing for. Within the toss-up tournament, there are a total of 10 schools competing against each other to win academic recognition, a special plaque, and scholarship money. Bryan College, an official sponsor of Toss-Up 94, is offering 4 $1,000 scholarships to the winning toss-up schools. As we keep that in mind, let's take a look at those scores. And at this point, Ooltewah is coming in with 195 points, Baylor 180, a very close match, and there's still a lot of time left for either score to change. So let's go ahead and start round 2. For 20 points, Oberlin was the first coeducational college in the United States. What was the first college to admit blacks as well as whites?
Winternitz, Baylor.
Harvard.
That is incorrect.
Ernest, Ooltewah.
Tuskegee.
Looking for Oberlin there. For 10 points, what was the name given to the ocean area traversed by Spanish treasure ships plying the seas between Spain and her New World colonies? The term was popular during the 17th and 18th centuries when pirates preyed on the ships loaded with Spanish treasure.
Time.
Time on that one. Spanish Main we're looking for. For 15 points, Franklin Roosevelt was elected President of the United States in 1932. When was Hitler elected Chancellor?
St. Ooltewah.
1933.
Correct, Chancellor of Germany. Locate these famous arches. Arc de Triomphe.
To Johnny, Baylor.
Paris.
Correct. For 10 points, the Gateway Arch.
Winternitz, Baylor.
St. Louis, Missouri.
Correct. For 15 points, the Ark of Titus.
To Johnny, Baylor.
Rome.
Correct. For 20 points, the Ark of Constantine.
St. Ooltewah.
Istanbul.
Incorrect.
To Johnny, Baylor.
Also in Rome.
Correct. For 20 points, what is the name of the disease of the liver caused by abnormally high levels of bile in the blood and gives the skin a yellow color?
Askew, Baylor.
Jaundice.
Correct. For 10 points, Mars is the red planet. What is the blue planet?
To Johnny, Baylor.
Neptune.
Incorrect.
Ernest, Ooltewah.
The Earth.
Correct. For 5 points, it ranks as the gun dealer capital of the country with almost 1,800 licensed dealers. Name this city in Texas.
To Johnny, Baylor.
San Antonio.
Incorrect.
St. Ooltewah.
Dallas.
Looking for Houston. For 15 points, the issue of gun control again came to the forefront after the attempt on President Reagan's life. Which amendment to the U.S. Constitution guarantees?
Winternitz, Baylor.
Second Amendment.
Correct, the right to bear arms. For 20 points, Arrange these fractions in ascending order of size. 2/3, 5/7, 8/11, 9/13.
Ernest Ottawa.
9/13, 8/11, 5/7, 2/3.
Incorrect. Baylor?
Tajani Baylor.
8/11, 9/13, 5/7, 2/3.
Looking for 2/3, 9/13, 5/7, and 8/11 on that one. For 5 points, Bordeaux is a region in France. Where is Bavaria located?
Tajani Baylor.
Germany.
Correct. For 10 points, a sprawling 1,000-year-old seaport of 12 million people was once referred to as the Paris of the Orient. The Wangho River stretches nearly 40 miles along this Chinese city. Name it.
Winternitz Baylor.
Shanghai.
Correct. For 20 points, what is the Lunar New Year called in Vietnam?
Winternitz Baylor.
Tet.
Correct. For 10 points, Great Britain's national anthem, God Save the Queen, is sung to the same tune as what?
Winternitz
My country 'tis of thee.
Saint Ottawa.
Our country 'tis of thee.
We're looking for America on that one. What patriotic song in the U.S.? For 10 points, what 1970s fad sent many overweight people to their dentists?
Johnston Ottawa.
Braces.
Incorrect.
Winternitz Baylor.
Gold crowns on their teeth.
Incorrect. Having their jaws wired shut. For 10 points, there are 3 general categories of poetic literature. 2 of them are narrative and dramatic. What is the third?
Ernest Ottawa.
Epic.
Incorrect.
Time.
Lyric. For 15 points, this is the term applied in architecture to 16th century English buildings. It is characterized by decorative use of Renaissance style.
Saint Ottawa.
Baroque.
Incorrect. I'll finish the question. Decorative use of Renaissance style superimposed on the negative perpendicular. What is this style?
Johnny Baylor.
Gothic.
Tudor. Looking for Tudor. For 10 points, it was his invention of the type mold that made movable metallic.
Johnny Baylor.
Gutenberg.
Correct. Metal type practical. Movable metallic type practical. Who was he? How do you spell broccoli?
To Johnny Baylor.
Broccoli.
Correct. For 15 points, a quarter section of a circle is called what?
Winternitz Baylor.
Quadrant.
Correct. For 5 points, croquet is a popular lawn game in which the players use mallets to hit balls through narrow arches, which are called what?
Askew Baylor.
Wickets.
Correct. For 5 points, of psychiatrist, psychoanalyst, and psychologist, who needs to be a licensed physician?
Askew Baylor.
Psychiatrist.
Correct. For 10 points, how many of the 8 convicted participants in the Iran-Contra scandal were actually jailed?
Ernest Ottawa.
None of them.
Correct. For 20 points, this baseball star plays the game with an artificial hip. Name him.
Johnny Baylor.
Bo Jackson.
Correct. For 20 points, I'll list 4 capital cities, and you name the respective Canadian province. Edmonton, Regina, Halifax, Winnipeg.
Winternitz Baylor.
Okay. Edmonton is Alberta. No, that's wrong. Never mind. Virginia is Saskatchewan. I forget. I don't know.
Saint Ottawa.
Edmonton is Saskatchewan. Regina.
What we're looking for is Alberta, Saskatchewan, Nova Scotia, and Manitoba. For 10 points, a math question for you. What is the factorial of 5?
Winternitz Baylor.
Oh, sorry. 120.
Correct. For 5 points, May 20th marks the anniversary of Charles Lindbergh's historic 1927 transatlantic flight. Who was his co-pilot?
Ernest Ottawa.
He didn't have one.
Correct. It was a solo flight. For 10 points, the following 3 headlines all appeared in the same year. Now identify the year. Balfour Declaration promises Jewish homeland in Palestine.
Winternitz, Baylor.
1948.
Incorrect. Let me finish.
Saint Ottawa.
1947.
Incorrect. 1917 we were looking for there. When Tsar Nicholas abdicates, Russian Revolution begins. For 15 points, in D.H. Lawrence's novel, Sons and Lovers, she is one of the women in love. In the Bible, a woman of the same name was a sister of Aaron and Moses who was stricken with leprosy. Give me the name.
Saint Ottawa.
Miriam.
Correct. For 20 points, Kurt Weill composed the Threepenny Opera. Who wrote the Beggar's Opera?
To Johnny Baylor.
Haydn.
Incorrect. Ottawa?
Ernest Ottawa.
Rossini.
John Gay, we're looking for there. For 5 points, who in what story said, "Mirror, mirror on the wall"?
Ernest Ottawa.
The Wicked Witch in Snow White.
Judges? Correct on that one. Baylor, would you like to try? That was the question. We finished the question.
Ask you, Baylor.
Snow White. In the story, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
It was the Wicked Queen in Snow White we were looking for. Here's the last question. The study of animals is called zoology. I'll give you 5 points if you can tell me the study of China.
To Johnny Baylor.
Sinology.
Correct. Well, that's the end of our second toss-up round. And before we go to the scores, here are the 2 bonus categories, poets and words. Remember that the bonus round questions are worth 10 points each, and only the captain may give an answer. Ottawa, at this point, is coming in with 245 points, Baylor 370. And Baylor, your categories are poets and words. You may go first since you're ahead. What category would you choose?
Thank you. We'll take words today.
Words it will be. You'll have 60 seconds to answer these 10 questions. Remember, you can pass. If time allows, we'll come back to them. Here we go. Words. The reduplicated syllable may be the first words to appear in a child's vocabulary, such as mama and papa. I'll give you the clue, and you identify the other words with duplicated syllables. A cream-filled chocolate.
Bonbon.
Correct. The city that gave us the Reds.
Cincinnati.
Correct. A simple drum.
A tom-tom.
Correct. The sound of ringing bells, a word from a poem by Edgar Allan Poe.
Tintinnabulation.
Correct. A low, continuous sound of a voice, a stream or leaf.
Murmur.
Correct. Primitive, wild, cruel, like Attila the Hun or the Mediterranean pilots.
Barbarous.
A surgical operation for research or study.
Pass.
French dance immortalized by Offenbach.
Can-can.
Correct. Disease caused by lack of vitamin B1.
Berry.
Correct. Ballerina skirt.
Tutu.
Correct. Surgical operation for research or study.
What? Vivisection?
Vivisection. Correct in that one. And we have no questions to go back over, so you've used your time well spent. I'll have to ask for the judges on that primitive, wild, cruel. We're going to go ahead and give them that. We're looking for barbaric on that one. Barbarous? Okay. All right, turning our attention now to poets. We have Ottawa. You will have 60 seconds to answer these questions. Remember, you can pass if you choose. You may confer, but only Dale Ernest may give us, as team captain, the answers. Are you all ready?
Yes.
All right. Who wrote Ode to the West Wind?
Shelley.
Correct. Paradise Lost.
Milton.
Very good. The Song of Hiawatha.
Longfellow.
Correct. Idols of the King.
Tennyson.
The Wasteland.
T.S. Eliot.
Correct. The Raven.
Poe.
Correct. If.
Pass.
Elegy written in a country churchyard.
Pass.
Old Ironsides.
Holmes.
Correct. Don Juan.
Pass.
If.
William Albee.
Incorrect. Elegy written in a country churchyard.
Whittier.
Incorrect. Don Juan.
John Keats.
Looking for Byron on that one. And since you went ahead and answered your past questions, your time is up. If Rudyard Kipling, an elegy written in a country churchyard was Thomas Gray. Good answers on your other questions. And that wraps up Poets and Words for that bonus round. Want to be sure and thank our coaches who have taken such time in preparing these teams for competition today. For Baylor, we want to thank David Harris. And then over for Ooltewah, we appreciate Martha McCarley and Mary Stone as well. Thank you for the time you've taken in preparing these teams. Teams, we want to be sure and thank you all, too, for a fine match and for time preparation that you've put in as well. Taking a look now at those final scores. Ooltewah, 375, and Baylor of 315. Ooltewah, 315, Baylor, 470. I want to thank our judges for helping us out today and answering those tough questions. And for you for watching your favorite public television station, WTCI. We'll see you next time with 2 new teams and another game of toss-up.
For a VHS copy of this program, send $35 to WTCI Video Services, 4411 Amnicola Highway, Chattanooga, Tennessee, 37406.
Funding for Toss-Up is made possible in part by Bryan College. Bryan College, broad-based liberal arts in a Christian perspective, preparing you for your next job and the rest of your life. Bryan College, Dayton, Tennessee. Christian education for today's world.
Other science shows are all talk and no science.
This is all very reasonable. There's nothing very hard to understand here.
But with Bill Nye, the science guy, you get all science all the time. Make the switch to more science power. Switch to Bill Nye, the science guy.
Watch weekdays at 5:30 on WTCI.
Funding for Toss-Up is made possible in part by Bryan College.
One person who is truly committed has a bigger impact than 100 who are only interested.
Bryan College, broad-based liberal arts in a Christian perspective, preparing you for the rest of your life. Bryan College, Dayton, Tennessee. Christian education for today's world.
Welcome to Toss-Up 1994. This is the semifinal round where top area high school students go head-to-head in exciting academic competition. I'm Karen Elliott, your host and moderator for today's game. Let's meet our teams. First, for Baylor, we have team captain Andrew Winternitz. Andrew, welcome back.
Thank you.
Would you please introduce your teammates?
Yes. On my left, I have Marisa Askew, and on my right, I have Oja Sajani.
Welcome to you both. And then over on this side, from Ooltewah, we have team captain Dale Ernest. Dale, welcome back.
Thank you.
And your teammates, if you would introduce them, please.
Matt Johnston on my left and Adam Sane on my right.
Welcome to you all. As our teams get ready for today's game, let me remind everyone of the rules. The competition is divided into 2 toss-up rounds that are each followed by a bonus round. Toss-up questions are worth between 5 and 20 points and are answered by the team member that buzzes in first. Scores are tallied at the end of each toss-up round, and the team with the higher score gets its choice of categories in the bonus round, which are worth 10 points each. Any team buzzing in before the question is completed will lose 5 points if the answer given is wrong. And before we get started, I want to thank our panel of judges who are with us today. The judges will have the final decisions on any questions or scores. Good luck to our teams. Now let's begin toss-up round 1. For 15 points, Lewis and Clark were involved in the expedition of 1804 to 1806, sent to explore the United States to the Pacific. What 2 major rivers and 1 major mountain range were navigated and crossed along the way?
Winternitz, Baylor.
The Mississippi and the Columbia.
Incorrect.
Seine, Ottawa.
The Missouri, the Colorado River, and the Rocky Mountains.
Looking for the Missouri, the Columbia Rivers, and the Rocky Mountains. For 5 points, what country gave Senator John Kerry and colleagues access to captured POW artifacts?
Ernest, Ottawa.
Vietnam.
Correct. POW artifacts and its military headquarters. For 10 points, who warned in 1992 that the 70-year nightmare in his country could return if the U.S. economic aid,
Seine, Ottawa.
Boris Yeltsin.
correct, was not forthcoming? For 10 points, what 1992 UN-sponsored summit did Maurice Strong introduce with, "We're either going to save the whole world or none of it"?
Winternitz, Baylor.
The AIDS Conference.
Incorrect. Ottawa?
Seine, Ottawa.
The Conference on Environment.
Judges? Looking for the Earth Summit on that. For 10 points, the earliest fully developed system of writing is called cuneiform. How do you spell?
Johnny, Baylor.
Cuneiform.
Correct, and that was for 10 points. For 10 points. Now, for 15 points, the writing instrument used in cuneiform was a stylus. What was the writing material?
Seine, Ottawa.
Clay.
Correct. For 20 points, what ancient people invented this writing?
Johnny, Baylor.
The Sumerians.
Correct. Charles Lamb was Mary Lamb's brother. Now tell me the relation to the first person I'll name to the second. For 5 points, John Adams to John Quincy Adams.
Johnny, Baylor.
Father to son.
Correct. For 10 points, Maria Theresa to Marie Antoinette.
Seine, Ottawa.
Mother and daughter.
Correct. For 15 points, Joan Fontaine to Olivia de Havilland.
Johnny, Baylor.
Aunt to niece.
Incorrect. Ottawa?
Seine, Ottawa.
Mother to daughter.
Sisters. For 20 points, Daniel Webster to Noah Webster.
Winternitz, Baylor.
Grandfather to grandson.
Incorrect.
Seine, Ottawa.
Father to son.
No relation on that one. For 5 points, this hound is large enough to bring down an elk. At one time, it was used for hunting big game. Its coat is rough and wiry, and it may be gray, brown, red, black, white, or a combination of these colors. Is it an Afghan hound, an Irish wolfhound, or Great Dane?
Seine, Ottawa.
Irish wolfhound.
Correct. For 10 points, here are two titles of famous novels and plays. Supply the missing word in each case. A, the greening of blank, and B, the prince and the blank.
Askew, Baylor.
The Prince and the Pauper, and the greening of the earth.
Ottawa, would you like to try?
Time.
Looking for America, the greening of America, and the Prince and the Pauper. For 15 points, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization was established in March 1949. Greece and Turkey are now part of NATO, but were not original members. Which original member of NATO resigned from the alliance in 1967?
Winternitz, Baylor.
Switzerland.
Incorrect. Ooltewah?
Saint Ooltewah.
Italy.
Looking for France. For 5 points, the number of elephants illegally killed each year dropped from over 3,000 to less than 50 when a ban on the trade of what commodity?
Ernest Ooltewah.
Ivory.
Correct, was imposed 4 years ago. For 15 points, the Mediterranean Sea is ringed by 15 countries. Name any 5 of them.
Winternitz, Baylor.
Italy, France, Spain, Libya, Egypt.
Correct. For 15 points, the American government began with 4 cabinet departments. Name any 3 of them.
Ernest Ooltewah.
Department of War, Department of State, and the Department of Foreign Affairs.
Baylor, would you like to try that?
Johnny Baylor.
War, State, and Treasury.
Correct. Attorney General, the last. For 5 points, in the computer industry, what is the difference between hardware?
Ernest Ooltewah.
Hardware is the physical components of a computer, and software is the programs.
Correct. For 10 points, is 16 drams equal to 1 pound, 1 ounce, or 1 quart?
Winternitz, Baylor.
1 ounce.
Correct. For 5 points, the Lincoln Tunnel opened on December 22nd, 1937. What 2 states does it connect?
Saint Ooltewah.
New Jersey and New York.
Correct. For 10 points, a library containing documents relating to Gerald Ford's public life, and particularly his presidency, was dedicated April 27, 1981 at Ford's alma mater. What university?
Winternitz, Baylor.
Purdue.
Incorrect.
Saint Ooltewah.
Georgetown.
University of Michigan. Now for 10 points, what 2 Asian countries went to war on July 7th, 1937?
Winternitz, Baylor.
Japan and Russia.
Incorrect.
Saint Ooltewah.
Japan and China.
Correct. All right, that's the end of round 1, and in just a moment, we'll take a look at the scores. But first, here are the bonus categories: unique and Russia. Remember that the team with the higher score will go first in the bonus round. Now keep in mind, if Baylor wins this game, our semifinal match, then we'll indeed be champions. But if Ooltewah wins this game, we'll go on and have another round of toss-up and have a final match with that. All right, at this point, it's extremely close. Baylor coming in with 75 points, Ooltewah 70 points. Okay, Baylor, you get your choice. Do you want Russia or do you want unique?
That's a tough one, but we'll take Russia.
Russia it will be. And remember that during the bonus rounds, team members may confer, but only the captain can give answers. Each school will have 60 seconds to answer the 10 questions. And captains, you may pass on any questions and come back to them if time permits. Are you now ready for Russia?
Yes, ma'am.
Here we go. On what 2 continents does Russia lie?
Asia and Europe.
Correct. The Russian Revolution started on November 7th of what year?
1917.
Correct. Who is the president of Russia?
Boris Yeltsin.
Correct. Who was the last Tsar to rule Russia?
Nicholas II.
Correct. With what country did Russia go to war in 1904?
Japan.
Correct. What body of water represents the closest distance that Russian soil is to U.S. soil?
Bering Strait.
Correct. In what city is Red Square located?
Moscow.
Correct. What are the 2 most populous cities in Russia?
Kiev and Moscow.
Incorrect. A person who admires or is extremely fond of Russia is called what?
A Russophile.
Correct. And who is the patron saint of Russia?
St. Peter.
St. Nicholas we're looking for there. That finishes out your questions, and we were looking for Moscow and Leningrad or St. Petersburg on the two most populous cities. Good round in Russia there, though, Baylor. And now we're going to turn our attention to Ooltewah. Your category is unique. Remember, you'll have 60 seconds to answer these 10 questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, remember, you may pass on any questions. If time allows, we will come back. Here we go. This quiz calls for only one and only one answer. The only state which touches only one state is?
Alaska?
Incorrect. The only metal that is liquid at room temperature?
Mercury.
Correct. What is the only star that is bright enough to cast a shadow on Earth?
Sirius.
Incorrect. The only deity of Islam?
Allah.
Correct. The only prime number that is an even number is?
2.
Correct. The only 4 states that meet at right angles are?
Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah.
Correct. The only man to be Secretary of War, Chief Justice, and President of the United States was?
Taft.
Correct. The only place where the Pacific Ocean is east of the Atlantic Ocean is at what spot?
Pass.
The only number whose square equals its square root is?
2.
Incorrect. The only 4-letter word which printed in capitals reads the same upside down as right side up?
Anagram.
We're looking for noon. The word there was noon we were looking for. And the place where the Pacific Ocean east of the Atlantic Ocean, what spot? Panama Canal. The only state touches only one state, Maine, we're looking for there. And the only star that is bright enough to cast a shadow on Earth, the sun. Only number whose square equals its square root, 1. Okay. Good job, though, Ooltewah. Good job on that difficult category of unique. Before we check the score, let me tell you what we're playing for. Within the toss-up tournament, there are a total of 10 schools competing against each other to win academic recognition, a special plaque, and scholarship money. Bryan College, an official sponsor of Toss-Up 94, is offering 4 $1,000 scholarships to the winning toss-up school. As we keep that in mind, let's take a look at our scores now. At this point, Ooltewah has 120 points, Baylor 155. And there's still a lot of time for either score to change, and with that in mind, let's go ahead and start round 2 of toss-up. For 10 points, calligraphic instruments predominate over mere weaponry. This is a technical paraphrase of what familiar?
Winternitz, Baylor.
Pen is mightier than the sword.
Correct. What familiar proverb? For 5 points, November 11th, 1918 marked the end of World War I. We observe this holiday.
To Johnny, Baylor.
Veterans Day.
Incorrect. Ooltewah?
Ernest, Ooltewah.
Armistice Day.
That is correct. For 5 points, what is the name of the British national anthem?
Winternitz, Baylor.
God Save the Queen.
Correct, and that was for 5 points. For 10 points, this Texan was an independent candidate in the last presidential.
St. Ooltewah.
H. Ross Perot.
Correct. For 5 points, with a history of abortion clinic bombings and the murder of a doctor, there...
To Johnny, Baylor.
Pensacola, Florida.
Let me finish the question, please. That is incorrect. There is speculation that Pensacola might become the Selma, Alabama of the abortion rights movement. For what movement is Selma, Alabama remembered?
St. Ooltewah.
Civil rights movement.
Correct. For 20 points, Carthaginian General Hannibal used elephants during the Punic Wars. In 1856, U.S. Secretary of War Jefferson Davis imported another unlikely animal to be used as a beast of burden at Camp Verde in Texas. He sent 32 of them. What were they?
Winternitz, Baylor.
Camels.
Correct. For 10 points, the area of a parallelogram is 30 square centimeters, and the base is 10 centimeters. Find the altitude drawn to the base.
To Johnny, Baylor.
3 centimeters.
Correct. Here's a math question for you. It's worth 10 points. If rent is lowered from $600 to $500 per month, what is the percent of decrease?
To Johnny, Baylor.
16.67%.
Incorrect. Correct? Thank you. That is correct. I'm sorry. For 5 points, Now, if the rent is raised from $500 back to $600 per month.
To Johnny Baylor.
20%.
That is correct. What is the percent of increase? For 15 points, who invaded Columbus, New Mexico on March 9th, 1916?
St. Ottawa.
Pancho Villa with the Mexicans.
Correct. For 15 points, they believed that socialism should come not by revolution, but gradually through education. They were named for a Roman general. Name this British organization.
Winternitz, Baylor.
The Augustinians?
Incorrect. Ottawa?
Johnston, Ottawa.
The Caesarians?
The Fabian Society. For 10 points, although it's a unit of the French government, Frenchmen are forbidden to join. The ranks consist solely of volunteers, and enlistment is for 5 years.
St. Ottawa.
The French Foreign Legion.
Correct. What is it? For 20 points, in 1785, a famous geologist shocked the Royal Society of Edinburgh with his theory that the Earth's age was limitless and that it was still in the process of formation. Because of his theory, he is now considered the father of modern geology. Name him.
To Johnny Baylor.
Lyell.
Incorrect. Ottawa?
Ernest, Ottawa.
Wallace.
James Hutton we're looking for there. For 5 points, Lawrence of Arabia became heroic, legendary during, let me start again, for 5 points. Lawrence of Arabia became a heroic, legendary figure during which major war?
St. Ottawa.
World War I.
Correct. For 15 points, what's the only state ever to send 2 women to the U.S. Senate?
Winternitz, Baylor.
California.
At the same time, correct. For 20 points, which country singer was a helicopter pilot in Vietnam and a Rhodes Scholar?
Winternitz, Baylor.
Chris Christopherson.
Correct. For 20 points, in logic, what is the negation of the statement? Every college graduate has studied geometry.
To Johnny Baylor.
No college graduate has studied geometry.
Incorrect. Ottawa?
Ernest, Ottawa.
Every college graduate has not studied geometry.
Looking for some college graduates have not studied geology. Okay, for 10 points, was Carthage established as a colony of Greeks?
St. Ottawa.
Phoenicians.
Correct. Romans or Egyptians. For 5 points, he once got stuck in his bathtub and couldn't get out.
Ernest, Ottawa.
Taft.
Correct. For 20 points, at nearly 70,000 feet above sea level, which U.S. state capital has the highest elevation?
St. Ottawa.
Colorado.
Incorrect.
Winternitz, Baylor.
Denver.
Santa Fe, New Mexico. Santa Fe, New Mexico. For 20 points, the composer and some friends sketched a plan for an opera based on a tale by Russian novelist Gogol. The opera was never completed, and the remaining tone poem, however, has been immensely popular with concert audiences. The composer was Mussorgsky. Name the poem.
Ernest, Ottawa.
Pictures at an exhibition.
Incorrect. Baylor?
Time.
Night on Bald Mountain. For 20 points, before the invention of the telescope, the way was paved for later discoveries by the work of a Danish astronomer.
To Johnny Baylor.
Tycho Brahe.
Correct. For 10 points, in women's fashion, the flapper style was the in-look of the 1920s. What was the fashion rage of the 60s?
St. Ottawa.
The miniskirt.
Correct. For 10 points, this condition is caused by inflammation of a vein wall, resulting in the formation...
To Johnny Baylor.
Varicose veins.
Incorrect. Let me finish the question. Resulting in the formation of a blood clot inside its cavity. Is it called phlebitis or multiple sclerosis?
Johnston, Ottawa.
Phlebitis.
Correct. For 5 points, Napoleon burned Moscow in the year the United States began.
St. Ottawa.
1812.
Correct. The United States began the war against Great Britain. For 15 points, electrolysis is the chemical process.
To Johnny Baylor.
By which hair is removed?
Let me finish the question, please. Chemical process by which water is decomposed electrically into hydrogen and oxygen. What is the name of the device which utilizes the reverse of this process?
Ernest Ultawa.
Hydrolysis.
Looking for a fuel cell on that one. For 15 points, opium is the source for many narcotics and their derivatives. In the 1840s, 2 countries engaged.
Winternitz, Baylor.
England and China.
Correct, engaged in the Opium War. For 15 points, Lake Tahoe is located between California and Nevada. Between what 2 states is Lake Champlain situated?
Winternitz, Baylor.
Vermont and New Hampshire.
Incorrect. Ultawa.
Seine, Ultawa.
Vermont and New York.
Correct. For 20 points, one of Shakespeare's characters was a moneylender.
To Johnny, Baylor.
Shylock.
Correct. Judges? We need some more, please. Correct. We also needed to name that play. Okay. For 10 points, thousands of college students throughout the United States are taking courses in viticulture and enology. Generally, what is the subject of these courses?
To Johnny, Baylor.
Botany.
Incorrect.
Seine, Ultawa.
Study of vines.
Judges? Looking for grape cultivation and wine. Okay, that finishes out the second round of toss-up. And before we go to the scores, here are the 2 bonus categories, presidents and chemistry. Remember that the bonus round questions are worth 10 points each, and only the captain may give an answer. And our scores are still close, with Ultawa at 220 points, Baylor 290 points. Baylor, you're ahead, so you may choose your category. Would you like chemistry or president?
We're going to have chemistry.
Chemistry it will be. You will have 60 seconds to answer these 10 questions. Remember, you can pass, but a wrong answer stays wrong. Are you ready?
Yes.
Here we go. I'll give you the symbol. You identify the chemical element. H.
Hydrogen.
Correct. Au.
Gold.
Correct. Fe.
Iron.
Correct. Ag.
Silver.
Correct. Hg.
Mercury.
Correct. Sb.
Antimony.
Correct. Am.
Americanium. Cium. Americium.
Excuse, I didn't hear the answer. I'm sorry.
Americium.
Cs.
Cesium.
Correct. Ce.
Pass.
Kr.
Krypton.
Correct. Ce.
Ceridium.
Excuse me?
Ceridium. Cerium.
Correct. I'm sorry. I could not hear you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. All right. And that does finish out your bonus round, and all were correct. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Turning our attention now to Ultawa. Keep in mind, fellows, answer, Dale, as loud as you can, please. All right? You will have 60 seconds to answer these 10 questions about presidents. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. In your first 7 questions, I'll list the homes you supply the name of the president. Mount Vernon.
Washington.
Correct. A home in Houston.
Pass.
San Clemente, California.
Nixon.
Correct. Monticello.
Jefferson.
Correct. The Hermitage.
Jackson.
Correct. Sagamore Hill.
Pass.
Plains, Georgia.
Carter.
Correct. Now identify the U.S. presidents who appointed these Chief Justices to the Supreme Court. John Marshall.
Jefferson.
Incorrect. Roger B. Taney.
Jackson.
Correct. Warren Burger.
Kennedy.
Incorrect. A home in Houston.
Johnson.
Incorrect. Sagamore Hill.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
That finishes out your questions. That was Theodore Roosevelt we were looking for, Sagamore Hill. We're looking looking for John Marshall, who appointed these Chief Justices. John Marshall was John Adams. Warren Burger was Richard Nixon. And a home in Houston, George Bush. We want to be sure to thank our coaches who have taken such time in preparing these teams for this difficult competition in Toss-Up 1994. And that would be Ooltewah coach Martha McCarley and Mary Stone. Thank you, our Ooltewah coaches. And then Baylor coach David Harris, thank you so much. Now let's take a look at those scores and see what the final scores for this edition are. Baylor, 390 points. Ooltewah, 280 points. That means that Baylor is indeed the champion of 1994 Toss-Up. Thank you all so much for being part of our competition. And again, we thank you, our coach David Harris, for coaching this fine team. And we also thank you for watching your favorite public television station, WTCI. I'm Karen Elliott. Thank you for watching.
Watch Nomads of the Wind next on your favorite public television station, WTCI. Watch Tuesday night at 9 for Fast Forward with host Dr. Jim Catanzaro and White House physician Dr. Dean Ornish.
From Baylor, we have our captain, Andrew Winternitz. Andrew, welcome. Who have you brought with us today?
Well, to my right I have Otis Johnny, and to my left I have Marisa Askew.
Welcome to all of you. And then we also have Ray County in today's game. Jeff Fisher's the captain. Jeff, who have you got with you today?
On my left, I have Debbie Ketcher. Sitting on my right, I have Wade Wilson.
Looking forward to a good match from you all as well. As our teams get ready for today's game, let me remind everyone of the rules. The competition is divided into 2 toss-up rounds that are each followed by a bonus round. Toss-up questions are worth between 5 and 20 points and are answered by the team member that buzzes in first. Scores are tallied at the end of each toss-up round, and the team with the higher score gets its choice of categories in the bonus round, which are worth 10 points each. Any team buzzing in before the question is completed will lose 5 points if the answer is given wrong. Before we get started, I want to thank our panel of judges who are with us today. The judges will have the final decisions on any questions or scores. Good luck to both teams, and let's go ahead and get started in our first toss-up round. For 10 points, in which ancient city on the Euphrates River, 140 miles northeast of Basra, did Iraq park MiG-21s next to the...
Winternitz, Baylor.
That would be Baghdad.
That is incorrect. I'll finish the question. Did Iraq park MiG-21s next to the remains of a famed ziggurat? This city with a 2-letter name was in the ancient region of Sumar. The answer is For 5 points, the Pentagon won the annual Doublespeak Award in 1991 by referring to bombing as servicing the target. An honorable mention went to the Bush administration for meaningful downturn in aggregate output, a euphemism for what economic term?
Wilson, Ray County.
Recession.
That is correct. 15 points. This U.S. president, his first lady, and their 2 daughters all use the same 3-letter monogram.
To Johnny, Baylor.
LBJ.
Judges? Lyndon Baines Johnson, indeed. 5 points. This dairy product is made of fermented semi-fluid milk and milk solids in...
Tajani Baylor.
Yogurt.
Correct. 20 points. Name in order the American presidents who were in office during each of these historic events. Pure Food and Drug Act, Depression of 1929, Ordinance of Nullification, Alien and Sedition Acts.
Time.
In order, that would be Theodore Roosevelt, Hoover, Jackson, and John Adams. For 20 points, what system groups students in classes according to their learning ability?
Time.
That would be tracking. 10 points. A report by the Center for Science and the Public Interest stated that theater popcorn was one of the most unhealthy food products available because of what type of highly saturated oil used to pop the popcorn?
Tajani Baylor.
Canola oil.
That would be incorrect.
Wilson, Ray County.
Vegetable oil.
No, that's coconut oil. 20 points. Austin is the state capital, but Houston is Texas's largest city. Identify both the capital city and the largest city in each of the following states: Maryland, Michigan, Missouri.
Winternitz Baylor.
For Maryland, it would be the capital is Annapolis and the largest city is Baltimore. For Michigan, the largest city is Detroit, the capital is Lansing. And for Missouri, the largest city is St. Louis and the capital is Jefferson City.
That would be correct, indeed. Thank you. 5 points. What country's first king was named Egbert?
Winternitz Baylor.
Norway?
Incorrect. Ray County? Answer is England's. 10 points. Identify the following sentence as simple, compound, complex, or compound complex. The great metropolis had entirely changed, as best as I could recall, since my last visit a decade ago.
Winternitz Baylor.
Compound complex?
Incorrect. Ray County?
Wilson, Ray County.
Compound.
It would be complex. 5 points. Listen closely now. Correct the grammatical error in the following sentence. Neither Bob nor Hank have a chance to win the club's...
Tajani Baylor.
Have should be has.
Correct. 5 points. Why have city officials in Pisa, Italy announced plans to silence the bells in its world-famous bell tower?
Tajani Baylor.
Because the vibrations will knock the Leaning Tower of Pisa down.
Indeed correct. Thank you. 20 points. How many cubes with paint on 3 sides would result from cutting a painted 3-inch cube into 1-inch cubes?
Tajani Baylor.
4.
Incorrect.
Wilson, Ray County.
6.
Incorrect. The answer is 8, the corner pieces. 10 points. Only twice since 1920 has it voted for a Democratic president, most recently in 1992. Despite its long Republican tradition, it also, in 1992, elected a socialist to its sole House seat. Name this Northeast state.
Winternitz Baylor.
Vermont.
Correct. 10 points. What issue is causing friction between the United States and North Korea?
Winternitz Baylor.
North Korea allegedly has nuclear weapons or the potential to create nuclear weapons. And they...
Incorrect. Ray County?
Time.
Nuclear inspections. 10 points. Where did scientists just find the remains of Cryolopsaurus, a dinosaur, the Gobi Desert, Galapagos Islands, New Zealand, Himalayas, or Antarctica?
Wilson, Ray County.
Antarctica.
Correct. 10 points. In 1980, the U.S. government spent 23.7% of the federal budget on defense, 18.9% on Social Security, 8.9% on interest payments on the debt, and 7.7% on Medicare and Medicaid. By 1992, which of these four was increasing by over 75%?
Winternitz, Baylor.
Interest.
Incorrect.
Ketchersid, Ray County.
Defense.
That would be incorrect. Medicare, Medicaid. For 5 points, the Clinton administration has pledged at least $580 million over the next 5 years for the National Flat Panel Display Initiative, hoping that the United States will be able to compete with what nation currently dominating the market of these thin, lightweight screens?
Tajani, Baylor.
Japan.
Correct. And this is our last question. It happens to be a math question for 10 points. What's the sum of 2 5/12 and 3 1/4? Please reduce your answer.
Tajani, Baylor.
5 3/4.
Incorrect. Ray County?
Wilson, Ray County.
5 3/4.
Incorrect. The answer would be 5 2/3. And that wraps up the end of round 1. We will be proceeding in just a moment to our bonus round, but first let's take a look at the scores. And remember that we'll have the teams choosing in just a moment which bonus category they would like. And here are the categories for you: England and battles. Let's take a look at our scores from round 1. And let's take a look at some scores right now. We've got Baylor coming in at 60 points and Ray County coming in at 15, which means Baylor will go first in the bonus round. And your categories are England and battles. Which do you choose?
That's a tough call, but I think we're going to have to go with England.
England it is then. Remember that during the bonus rounds, team members may confer, but only the captain can give answers. Each school will have 60 seconds to answer the 10 questions. Captains, you may pass on any question. We will come back if their timings permit. Are you ready?
Ma'am.
All right, England, here we go. To which House of Parliament must the Prime Minister belong?
Commons. House Commons.
Correct. England was one of the first countries to industrialize because of what mineral resource?
Iron.
Incorrect. What famous insurance company began as a coffee house?
Pass.
What scientist formulated the law of universal gravitation?
Newton.
Correct. What flag is the symbol of the United Kingdom?
Union Jack. Union Jack.
Correct. What philosopher had the most influence on writing the Declaration of Independence?
Locke.
Correct. What John is the British equivalent of our Uncle Sam?
Pass.
Identify the first successful English settlement on the American mainland.
Jamestown.
Correct. Who wrote historical plays about English monarchs such as Henry IV and Richard III?
Shakespeare. William Shakespeare.
That is correct. And that wraps up our bonus round. And we'll be checking our score in just a moment. Oh, the one you passed on indeed was Lloyd's of London. What insurance company became the coffee house? What John is the British equivalent of our Uncle Sam would be John Bull. And who was England's first Prime Minister? Robert Walpole. Okay. All right, going to our other bonus round, that would be Ray County, and you have the category of battles. Are you ready for 10 questions? I'll name the battle, and you increase your score in the Battle of the Brains by supplying the respective war. Brandywine Creek.
Civil War.
Plattsburgh or Lake Champlain.
French and Indian War.
Incorrect. San Jacinto.
Mexican Revolution.
Incorrect. Buena Vista.
Texan Revolution.
Incorrect. Spotsylvania.
Revolutionary War.
Incorrect. Santiago Bay.
Spanish-American War.
Correct. Chateau Thierry.
World War I.
Correct. Baton.
World War II.
Correct. Yalu River. Yalu River.
Pass.
Tet Offensive.
Vietnam.
Correct. Very good. And those answers, Plattsburgh or Lake Champlain, War of 1812. San Jacinto, Texas Independence, Buena Vista, Mexican War, Spotsylvania, Civil War. All right. And that wraps up our bonus round for round number 1. And before we check the score, keep in mind that a lot can happen between our bonus rounds and going into round number 2. Again, we've got Baylor matching up with Ray County. It's a good match indeed, and our coaches are David Harris for Baylor and Emily Fugit for Ray County. We appreciate you all being with us and giving your time to these very fine teams as they compete here with us in Toss-Up 1994. We'll be following our bonus round as soon as we check our scores here with another 8 minutes of toss-up. Again, the points will be from 5 to 20 points, and then we'll wind up the game with a final bonus round with 2 categories. The team that's leading will indeed choose which category to begin, and we'll get to that in just a few moments. Let me tell you what the winning team will receive. Within the toss-up tournament, there are a total of 10 schools competing against each other to win academic recognition, a special plaque, and scholarship money. Bryan College, an official sponsor of Toss-Up 94, is offering 4 $1,000 scholarships to the winning toss-up school. As we keep that in mind, let's take a look at the scores. And here they are for us. We've got Ray County coming in at 65 points and Baylor at 120. And we're going to head in now into our second round of toss-up. A lot can happen. Are we ready? Here we go. Spell the word for 10 points. Spell the word tertiary.
To Johnny Baylor.
T-E-R-T-I-A-R-Y.
Correct. For 10 points, this personality disorder is characterized by aversion to food and an obsession with weight loss.
Winternitz Baylor.
Anorexia.
Judges? Anorexia nervosa, indeed. 10 points. The Council on Graduate Medical Education reported last week that the United States now faces a shortage of A, surgeons, B, pediatricians, C, gynecologists, D, oncologists, or E, general practitioners.
Winternitz Baylor.
General practitioners.
Indeed. 15 points. In 1992, which city stock exchange was third behind New York and London in volume and transactions?
Winternitz Baylor.
Tokyo.
That is correct. For 10 points, are man's chief competitors for available food bacteria, rodents, birds, or insects?
Wilson, Ray County.
Insects.
Correct. 5 points. Should Kathleen Brown win her targeted election this November, she will raise women's political power to an unparalleled height. In what state is Brown running for governor?
Fisher, Ray County.
Texas.
That is not correct.
Winternitz Baylor.
California.
Correct. 5 points. She gives advice to parents in raising PG kids in an X-rated society. Name this wife of the vice president.
To Johnny Baylor.
Tipper Gore.
Correct. For 10 points, there were identifiable demographic trends in the 1992 presidential election. Of white, black, Hispanic, and Asian voters, which group was the only one in which George Bush finished first?
Winternitz Baylor.
White.
Not correct.
Fisher, Ray County.
Hispanic.
No, it was Asian. For 5 points, in the first ruling of its kind, a federal judge in Seattle struck down a Washington state law against doctors assisting in which procedure, declaring that terminally ill people have right
to Johnny Baylor.
Suicide.
Correct. For 5 points, it took scientists nearly 5 months to confirm but the use of which high-tech testing that a California boy kidnapped 18 years ago had found his real mother.
Wilson, Ray County.
Genetic testing.
Incorrect.
Winternitz Baylor.
DNA testing.
Correct. For 15 points, what substance is employed as both a caustic in medicine and as a light-sensitive substance in photography?
To Johnny Baylor.
Silver chloride.
Zinc. For 15 points, at the Constitutional Convention, the New Jersey plan posed that smaller states have larger voice in the federal government. What plan advocated that the larger states...
Winternitz Baylor.
The Virginia plan.
Correct. For 10 points, rock and roll was born with the song Rock Around the Clock. In 1955, the hit soared to the #1 spot in the pop charts and remained there for 8 weeks. What group recorded the song?
Winternitz Baylor.
Bill Haley and the Comets.
Correct. For 10 points, whose reputation may be further harmed by the recent publication of H.R. Haldeman's diaries?
Fisher, Ray County.
Richard Nixon.
Correct. 15 points. Name these 3 early Hollywood stars after I give you these names. Little Tramp, America's Sweetheart, Man of a Thousand Faces.
Time.
And that would be in order: Charlie Chaplin, Mary Pickford, and Lon Chaney. For 15 points, a presidential first was set when President Clinton met with representatives from all over the USA's 545 tribes at the recent Native American Summit. Name the largest tribe, the one forced westward from its southeast home by federal...
To Johnny Baylor.
Cherokee.
Correct. Navajo's number 2. Of Riyadh, Istanbul, Amman, Cairo, and Damascus, in which city was the Israeli PLO pact sign?
Winternitz, Baylor.
Damascus.
That is not correct.
Fisher, Ray County.
Cairo.
For 15 points, that was Cairo. For 10 points, 1 in 20 U.S. workers is now employed by a foreign-owned firm. Japanese firms employ 663,000 Americans. Firms owned by what other 2 foreign countries employ even more Americans?
Winternitz, Baylor.
France and Britain. England.
No, sir. Not correct. Ray County?
Wilson, Ray County.
Canada and Mexico.
Britain and Canada. And I'll give you the year and the leading movie stars, and you give me the movie. For 5 points, 1976, Sylvester Stallone, Tally Shire.
Fisher, Ray County.
Rocky.
Correct. For 10 points, 1959, Charlton Heston, Stephen Boyd.
Winternitz, Baylor.
The 10 Commandments?
No. Ray County?
Fisher, Ray County.
El Cid.
Ben-Hur on that one. 15 points. In 1957, William Holden, Alec Guinness.
Fisher, Ray County.
Rise and Fall of the Third Reich.
That is not correct. Baylor?
Time.
Bridge over the River Kwai. For 20 points, 1956, David Niven, Shirley MacLaine.
Time.
Around the World in 80 Days. And here's a math question for you for 10 points. Rust doubles in area every 24 hours. At the beginning of the month, a piece of metal had a rust spot on it. On the 20th day, it was completely covered with rust. On what day was it half covered with rust?
To Johnny Baylor.
The 19th.
Correct. For 15 points, what war of the 1930s was regarded as a crucial struggle between communism and fascism?
Fisher, Ray County.
Spanish Civil War.
Correct. For 5 points, celebrated attorney Melvin Belli and 25 other powerhouse lawyers recently sued which industry for an estimated $5 billion?
To Johnny Baylor.
Tobacco industry.
Correct. For 10 points, Al Gore, at age 45, is the 4th youngest vice president in the 20th century. Name any 2 of the 3 younger vice presidents of the century. All Republicans, 2 of whom.
Fisher, Ray County.
Richard Nixon and Dan Quayle.
Correct. Theodore Roosevelt would be the 3rd there. And here's your last question for the second round of toss-up. 15 points. What word describes the automotive transmission gear which enables a car engine to run at a relatively low speed even when the vehicle is traveling fast?
Winternitz, Baylor.
Is that overdrive?
It indeed is. Thank you both very much. Well, that's the end of our second toss-up round, but before we go to the scores, here are the 2 bonus categories: politics and business. Remember that the bonus round questions are worth 10 points each, and only the captain may give the answer. Now let's take a look at the scores and find out who will go first. And now let's take a look at those scores. Right now we have Ray County coming in at 130 points and Baylor at 255. Now, Baylor, you're ahead right now, so you may choose your bonus category between politics or business.
We'll take politics.
All right, here we go. You have 60 seconds to answer each question, to answer the questions. And keep in mind that your team members may help, but the answer must come from the captain. In politics, your first 3 questions, I'll give you a bird metaphor, and you explain their meaning in the language of politics. A dove.
Peace.
Correct. Pecking order.
Pass.
Lame duck.
President that can't be reelected.
Judges? Correct. Now name the legislative bodies of each of these countries. Germany.
Reichstag.
Not correct. England.
Parliament.
Correct. Spain.
Pass.
Israel.
Pass.
Japan.
Pass.
In 1790, when all 13 colonies were in the Union, how many senators sat in Congress?
26.
Correct. Did the Lincoln-Davis debates take place in 1858, 1848, or 1862?
1858.
Correct. Germany. Name the legislative bodies of each of these countries.
Parliament.
Bundestag. And in Spain, it was La Cortes. Israel, Knesset. In Japan, Diet. Very good job, you all. All right, we'll be turning our attention now to Ray County. Your category is business. Are you all ready? All right, remember you have 60 seconds, and here we go. Define these abbreviations in the field of American business. AFL-CIO.
Pass.
FDIC.
Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation.
Correct. FHA.
Federal Housing Association.
That is not correct. FTC.
Pass.
GDP.
Pass.
GNP.
Gross National Product.
Correct. ICC.
Interstate Commerce Commission.
Correct. NLRB.
National Labor Relations Board.
Correct. SEC.
Pass. Securities Exchange Commission.
Correct. FNMA.
Pass.
AFL-CIO.
American Federation of Labor Companies.
And that is time on that one. It is the American Federation of Labor and Congress of Industrial Organizations, FTC, Federal Trade Commission, Gross Domestic Product, GDP, Federal National Mortgage Association, FHA, of course, you got the Federal Housing Administration. Thank you all so much. Congratulations to both teams for a great game, and we will get to those scores and tally up in just a moment. Again, we really appreciate the coaches being part of this, and that would be David Harris for Baylor and Emily Fugate over from Ray County. Teams, you've done a great job in preparing for this, and you had some tough questions. And thank you to our judges as well for helping us today. Thank you for watching your favorite public television station. We have our scores coming up for a final tally for today. Baylor, 305 points. Ray County, 180. Again, good match, you all. Good job. And we, again, appreciate our judges and our coaches. And we appreciate you for watching Thank you for watching your public television station, WTCI. We'll see you next time with 2 new teams for another game of toss-up.
preparing you for your next job and the rest of your life. Bryan College, Dayton, Tennessee. Christian education for today's world.
Hello, I'm Jim Catanzaro, president of Chattanooga State. You know, Channel 45, WTCI, means a lot to our community. I hope you support the channel as I do. Just the McNeil-Lehrer report alone is a tremendous contribution to our community in terms of knowledge of world affairs and certainly of national affairs. And, of course, locally produced programs like Fast Forward are important as well. Please send in your contributions today. It's an important cause.
Funding for Toss-Up is made possible in part by Bryan College. Bryan College, broad-based liberal arts in a Christian perspective, preparing you for your next job and the rest of your life. Bryan College, Dayton, Tennessee. Christian education for today's world.
And welcome to Toss-Up 1994, where we feature top area high school students in exciting academic competition. I'm Karen Elliott, your host and moderator for today's game. Let's meet our teams first. And here we have for Baylor over here, Andrew Winternitz. Andrew, welcome. Who'd you bring with you today?
To my right, I have Sajani, and to my left, I have Colin Womack.
Welcome to you all. And the opposing team for today from the Chattanooga School for the Arts and Sciences, our team captain is Jonathan Fallon. Jonathan, welcome. Who did you bring with you today?
To my left, I have Blair Prevost, and to my right, Stephen Trudell.
Looking forward to a good match from you all as well. As our teams get ready for today's game, let me remind everyone of the rules. The competition is divided into 2 toss-up rounds that are each followed by a bonus round. Toss-up questions are worth between 5 and 20 points and are answered by the team member that buzzes in first. Scores are tallied at the end of each toss-up round, and the team with the higher score gets its choice of categories in the bonus round, which are worth 10 points each. Any team buzzing in before the question is completed will lose 5 points if the answer is given wrong. And before we get started, I want to thank our panel of judges who are with us today. The judges will have the final decisions on any questions or scores. Good luck to our teams. Are we ready to begin toss-up round 1? Here we go. For 15 points, spell the word bar mitzvah.
To Johnny Baylor.
B-A-R-M-I-T-Z-V-A-H.
Correct. For 5 points, traveling by train through Colorado, he collapsed. Rushed back to Washington, he was confined to his bed and seriously ill for weeks. During that time, his wife made all the decisions and became, in effect, the real acting president. Name that man.
Trudell, CSAS.
Franklin Roosevelt.
That is not correct.
Winternitz, Baylor.
William Henry Harrison.
Woodrow Wilson, the correct answer there. For 5 points, in which country surrounded by the Pacific and Indian Oceans did scientists find fossils showing that life on Earth was surprisingly advanced more than 3.5 billion years ago?
Winternitz, Baylor.
Indonesia?
No. CSAS?
Sri Lanka.
Correct answer there, Australia. For 15 points, an element with an atomic number of 12 has a valence of what?
To Johnny Baylor.
2.
Correct. For 5 points, scientists have discovered mental retardation may be caused by a lack of oxygen in the mother's womb because of excessive alcohol can restrict the flow of blood through what cord?
Prevost, CSAS.
The fetal cord.
Judges?
Fetal cord. Incorrect.
Incorrect.
Winternitz, Baylor.
The umbilical cord.
Correct. For 20 points, as is so often the case, the artist never received much recognition until after his death. A Frenchman, he spent most of his pleasant days during his first trip to Tahiti, where he painted primitive people in a primitive style. Can you name him?
Time.
Paul Gauguin. For 15 points, in 1950, she became the first African-American woman to win a Pulitzer Prize. In 1976, she became the first African-American woman elected to the National Institute of the Arts and Letters. In her work, she often writes about blacks in northern cities. Name the poet.
Fallon, CSAS.
Maya Angelou.
That is not correct.
Winternitz, Baylor.
Eudora Welty.
Gwendolyn Brooks, the correct answer there. For 5 points, it moves by forming an extension of its body called a pseudopod. And
To Johnny, Baylor.
An amoeba.
correct, and flowing into it. It's a single-celled animal, indeed the amoeba. For 5 points, depending upon the hemisphere, in what direction do typhoons, hurricanes, and tornadoes whirl?
Winternitz, Baylor.
Clockwise.
In the northern hemisphere, it's clockwise. Southern hemisphere, it's counterclockwise.
Incorrect.
Fallon, CSAS.
In the northern hemisphere, it's counterclockwise, and the southern hemisphere, it's clockwise.
That would be correct. For 10 points, in the U.S. space program, what specifically were the Mariner, Pioneer, Viking, and Voyager?
Winternitz, Baylor.
Lunar, not Mars probes.
Judges? More information, more specific.
They were probes that landed on the surface of Mars, planet Mars. And
Judge. CSAS?
Solar system probes.
Judges?
More information.
More information, more specific, please.
Probes that orbited specific planets in our solar system.
Judges?
Incorrect.
Correct answer, unmanned planetary U.S. space vehicles. Remember, you must buzz in with your answer before you give your answer. For 15 points, who wrote The Fire Next Time, a series of essays on the feelings and attitudes of American blacks?
Time.
James Baldwin. For 15 points, claustrophobia is the abnormal